I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing about how I found out my wife, Susan, was cheating on me. We'd been married for 8 years, and honestly, I thought we had a good thing going. Sure, there were little fights here and there, but nothing out of the ordinary. We had 2 kids, a nice house, decent jobs, and life seemed pretty stable. I mean, I wasn't perfect, but I believed in us. That's why what happened next hit me like a freight train. It all started during what was supposed to be a relaxing family cruise. Susan had been talking about this trip for months, said it was the perfect way for us to unwind, reconnect, and make some memories. Our kids were excited, and I was looking forward to a break from work stress. But from the moment we boarded, something felt off. Susan was unusually distant with me. She'd go off on her own a lot or spend hours texting on her phone. She'd brush it off every time I asked if everything was okay, just giving me that snippy, dismissive look that I should have recognized as a warning sign. What really raised my suspicions, though, was the way she was acting around Todd, the best man at our wedding. Todd had been my best friend for years. We'd done a lot of dumb stuff together. But on this trip, Susan suddenly turned into a different person around him. She'd flirt a little too much, laugh at his stupid jokes a little too hard, and I caught her touching his arm once when she thought I wasn't looking. I told myself I was imagining things. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it was just the alcohol or the stress of the trip. But deep down, I knew I was. Then came the night I found something that made my stomach drop. I was in the cabin looking for my sunglasses, and I saw her purse on the counter. Nothing unusual, except I noticed her phone was unlocked. I paused for a second, stupid I know, but curiosity got the better of me. I grabbed her phone, unlocked it, and started scrolling through her messages. I'd never done this before, but I felt this strange, gnawing urge to see if there was anything I should know. And what I found was shocking. There were dozens of texts between her and Todd, flirty, suggestive, borderline intimate. They talked about how much they missed each other when they weren't together, how they couldn't wait to see each other after the cruise, and some pretty explicit stuff about getting together soon. I saw her calling him babe in some texts, and he responded with "can't wait to see you, babe." My hands started to shake. My heart was pounding like a drum. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. How long has this been going on? How did I miss all the signs? All those little moments I brushed off, her sneaking her phone away, her suddenly cold attitude, her business trips that I now suspect were cover stories, were all part of this. I didn't even know what to feel. Anger, betrayal, shame. I just sat there staring at her words, trying to process what I'd just seen. I felt like I'd been hit by a bus. I'd trusted her. We built this life together, and she was out there lying to my face, cheating with my best man. It felt like my entire world was crumbling in that moment. I knew I couldn't just confront her without some plan, so I took a deep breath, locked the phone, and decided I'd handle this the right way, by catching her in the act. I needed to see her reaction when I finally called her out. The next day, I couldn't focus on anything. My mind kept circling back to those texts, to her lies, to the betrayal. I tried to act normal around the kids, but it was impossible. Every little noise or innocent question from them felt like a punch to the stomach. I knew I had to confront her, but I also knew I needed more proof, something concrete, undeniable. I couldn't just accuse her based on texts I'd found in the middle of the night. I had to see her with Todd, or better yet, catch her in the act. So I started planning. I kept my eyes peeled, watching her every move. I noticed she started sneaking out more often, saying she was shopping or meeting up with some friends. But I knew better. I followed her one evening when she said she was going to the grocery store. She drove to a hotel on the outskirts of town. I parked a few blocks away and watched her go inside with Todd. My stomach twisted. I felt this strange mixture of anger and heartbreak. My wife, my best friend, all lying to me. I stayed in the car, waiting, heart pounding. About 20 minutes later, I saw them come out, her in a different outfit, obviously changing before she left. I followed her home from a distance, making sure I didn't get caught. When she pulled into the driveway, I stayed in the shadows, watching her walk into the house. That's when I finally knew for sure. She was cheating on me, right under my nose with my best man, and I'd been blind to all the signs. The worst part, the literal minute I saw her walk through that door, I felt this deep, aching emptiness. I've been so focused on keeping my family together, on pretending everything was fine that I missed all the warning signs. How do you miss your wife sneaking out late, or her trying to hide her phone, or her changing her stories every time you ask where she's been? I kept telling myself I was paranoid, that maybe I was overthinking, but deep down I knew this wasn't just a fling, it was something serious. It broke me in ways I can't even describe. That night I didn't sleep. I stayed awake, replaying everything, feeling numb. I knew I had to confront her, but I didn't know how. Did I just blurt it out? Did I catch her in bed with Todd? I was scared of what would happen next, but I was more scared of what I'd become if I kept pretending I didn't know. I didn't want to be that guy who just took it and moved on. I wanted answers. I needed to know exactly how long this had been going on, how much she lied, and if there was any way to fix it, or if I should just cut my losses and walk away. But before I could do anything, I needed more proof. I decided I'd set a trap, call it a game of poker, but I had to know for sure. I started acting normal, pretending I didn't know anything. I even kissed her goodnight that evening, feeling like a damn idiot. She smiled her bitchy little smile, the one that said she knew she was getting away with something. And as I watched her go to bed, I knew the next move was mine. I had to catch her in the act, or I'd never really know if this was over or just a new chapter in my nightmare. The following days were a roller coaster I wouldn't wish on anyone. I kept my eyes glued to her every move, trying to catch her slip, but she was cautious, more cautious than I'd ever seen her. Still, I knew I couldn't just sit around waiting for her to slip up again. I needed to take control, to set a trap that would force her hand or at least expose her for good. One night I decided to go all in. I made a plan to catch her when she thought she was alone. I'd leave my phone somewhere in the house, somewhere she'd find it, and I'd plan a recording app on it. I figured if she was cheating, she'd be careless enough to talk openly when she thought she was alone. I stayed up late, quiet as a shadow, setting everything up. My heart pounded the whole time, wondering if I was crossing a line or just doing what I had to do to find the truth. That night I left the phone on the kitchen counter, hidden but accessible. I went upstairs, pretending to sleep. A few hours later I heard her moving around. My wife Susan was sneaking out of the bedroom, phone in hand. She tiptoed past, clutching it like it was her lifeline. I knew it. I could hear her whispering, muffled, but I could make out enough. She was talking to Todd. I caught the words, "Can't wait to see you tonight, and don't worry, I'll make it worth your while." My stomach tightened. I clenched my fists, feeling a mix of rage and heartbreak. She was actually meeting him again, right under my nose. I waited until the morning, then played back the recording, hearing her clearly. Confirmed what I already knew. My wife was having an affair, and she didn't even care about hiding it anymore. She thought she was so clever, but I had her now. I had the proof I needed. I sat there, listening to her talk, feeling like a fool. I'd missed every sign, every little flirt, every suspicious move, and now I had the evidence. I wanted to scream, to break something. Instead, I took a deep breath and started planning my next move. I knew I couldn't confront her without risking everything, but I also knew I couldn't keep pretending I didn't know. That betrayal had cut so deep I could feel it in my bones. This wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was about trust, respect, and whether I even wanted to keep fighting for this marriage. I had the proof. The question was, what do I do now? The moment I had all the evidence, her texts, the recordings, the hotel stay, I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I was furious, devastated, and honestly, feeling like I'd been completely blindsided by the woman I thought I knew. I had to confront her, but I wanted that confrontation to be on my terms. I needed her to face the reality of what she'd done, and I needed her to understand that I wasn't going to be some fool anymore. So I waited until she came home from work. She always knew how to push my buttons. She'd act like nothing was wrong, throw in some snide remarks, or act bitchy just to get under my skin. But I was ready. I sat in the living room, the evidence spread out on the table, screenshots of the text, the recordings, the hotel receipts. When she walked in, I didn't say a word at first. I just stared at her, letting her squirm under my gaze. She noticed the look on my face and immediately tried to play it cool, giving her usual snippy smirk, saying, "What's your problem now? Are you jealous? Or did you find someone else to play with?" Her voice was sharp, dismissive, like she thought she could just brush this off. but I wasn't having it. I tossed the phone on the table and said, "You want to explain these? Because I've got proof you're cheating on me, Susan, with Todd, right under my nose. How long has this been going on? Tell me the truth." Her eyes flicked nervously and then she started with the usual lies. "You're overreacting. It's nothing. It's just sex. You're so paranoid," and a whole lot of bullshit. She kept lying, trying to deny everything at first, even brushing past the recordings and texts like they were nothing. But I wasn't about to let her lie her way out of it anymore. I told her I had proof, that I knew about the hotel stay, the sneaking around in the middle of the night, the babe texts. Her face went white, and that's when the real anger in her eyes started to show. She snapped back at me, calling me insecure, accusing me of not satisfying her anymore, saying I was just jealous because she was more attractive or some crap like that. I felt my chest tighten, because I knew it was all a bunch of crap, her trying to deflect, trying to make me feel like I was the problem. But that didn't matter anymore. What mattered was that I had her cornered. I told her she could keep lying, but I wasn't going to be the fool anymore. I told her I was done, that I was leaving, that she could keep her little affair with Todd, but I wasn't going to be part of this sham anymore. The shock on her face was priceless, and for a second I saw a flicker of panic. That confrontation was a watershed moment. Everything I'd suspected, everything I'd hidden from myself, all came spilling out. The betrayal was like punch to the gut, the kind that makes you question everything about your life, your marriage, your trust. I'd never felt so broken, so furious, and yet somehow relieved that I finally knew the truth. I told her she'd better start packing because I wasn't staying under the same roof with someone who could do this to me. I didn't know what I'd do next, but I knew I couldn't keep living like this, living with her lies, her betrayal, her contempt. This was the end of the line, and I was ready to walk away. After I told her to pack her bags, Susan's bitchy facade finally cracked. She looked at me with this icy glare, trying to play the victim, as if I was the one who was wrong for catching her. She spat out, "You're overreacting as usual. You always make a scene. You're just jealous because I still look good and you're afraid of losing me." I could feel my blood boiling. That's when I finally realized how manipulative she could be, how she'd spun this whole web of lies to keep her affair hidden. I told her it was over. No more excuses, no more bullshit. I didn't want to hear her lies or her half-assed apologies. I wasn't interested in her sob story about how she didn't mean for it to get this far. Honestly, I felt numb. I'd gone from shock to anger to a strange kind of calm. I knew I had to get out of there before I lost my shit completely. I packed a bag, called a friend to come pick me up, and left her standing there, still trying to deny everything. As I drove away, I kept replaying everything in my mind. Every sign I missed, every moment I brushed off. How she'd been so bitchy and dismissive, how she'd flirted with Todd in front of me, all of it. I'd been so blind, so trusting. But now I saw her for what she really was, a liar, a cheater, a manipulative woman who thought she could get away with anything. That night was one of the hardest nights of my life. I didn't sleep much. I kept thinking about the marriage I thought I knew, the woman I loved, and how all of it had just fallen apart in a matter of days. The betrayal cut deeper then. I could explain. It wasn't just that she cheated, she lied, she manipulated, she tore my world apart piece by piece. I felt like I'd been hit by a freight train, and I wondered if I'd ever really recover from this. But even in that dark moment, I knew one thing. I couldn't stay in a marriage where trust was completely broken. I was angry, yes, but I also felt a strange sense of relief. I finally had clarity. I finally saw her for who she was. And as much as it hurt, I knew I was better off without her. I had to figure out what to do next, whether to try and fix this mess or just walk away and start over. Even now, I'm still trying to process everything, but one thing's clear. I'll never be blind again. In the days that followed, I felt like I was walking around in a fog. Part of me wanted to believe she'd come crawling back, begging for forgiveness, but I knew that wasn't happening. Susan had shown her true colors, and I couldn't unsee the lies, the betrayal, or the way she'd used me like a pawn in her little game. I decided I'd file for divorce, not because I wanted to punish her, but because I knew I deserved better than someone who could cheat and lie so brazenly. The house felt emptier than I'd ever imagined. Every corner reminded me of the life we'd built, memories, good and bad, all now tainted by her lies. I spent a lot of time alone, trying to make sense of everything, asking myself how I'd missed so many signs, how I'd been so blind to her manipulations. It hurt more than I can say, but I also realized I needed to rebuild, to find myself again after losing so much trust. Looking back, I see it clearly now. I should have listened to those little red flags. Her coldness, her secretive behavior, her dismissiveness. These were all warning signs I ignored, too wrapped up in the idea of us to see what she was really doing. I was naive, I admit it. But I also learned a harsh lesson about trust, about how some people can look perfect on the outside but be rotten underneath. I don't regret confronting her, even if it was painful. Facing her was the only way I could finally start. Healing, it's going to take time, and I know I'll have scars from this, but I'm determined to move on. I have 2 kids who deserve a dad who's whole, and I owe it to myself to find happiness again, even if it means starting over. So here's what I've learned. Never ignore the signs. Don't let yourself stay in denial because it's easier than facing the truth. If someone cheats and lies, they don't deserve your trust anymore. And above all, no matter how much it hurts, you have to prioritize your own well-being. Because in the end, you only get one shot at life, and it's not worth wasting on someone who doesn't value you.